actually good to go?
Yeah, that's the point.
Okay, great. Our next presentation is PelagiX with Matt Carnes and Jimmy Freaks.
All right, well, aloha. We are PelagiX, and we are an integrated fisheries data platform. So my name is Matthew. I spent 707 days of my life at sea over 2 years learning about how our fisheries work, how they're fished, all here in the Pacific Islands. Also Alaska, Tahiti, Taiwan, Korea, Japan, basically been the entire Pacific Ocean learning about tuna. I've recently gotten into this technology sector, and I've convinced people that know much more about computers than I do to come and join me on this endeavor. Over here, setting up this system, which we will talk about pretty soon, is Jimmy. Jimmy runs a CAD/CAM company called Hōkū, and they make surfboards and software to support that. Jake is a recent UH grad that just graduated from a program in computational mathematics. And then Justin, who isn't here, he lives in California. He's our machine learning expert. And machine learning is kind of how we're going to all make this stuff work. So let me just see. Before, how many of you guys know that there's observers on our boats? And what they do is they count fish and make sure that the government knows how many fish are coming out of the ocean. All right, well, that's cool. At least some people do. So we do that. And America does it in a specific way. Down here, we put 25% of the boats, we put observers on 25% of the boats so those people can count the fish. That program in 2018 was awarded the contractor was awarded a $34 million contract to put about 60 people on boats. And that still only covers 25% of our fishery. Also, those observers, it's a really dangerous job. At least 4 Americans have died. One was down in American Samoa, and then another was actually from here. I knew both of those guys. I didn't know the other 2. So observing is kind of one way to get fisheries data. I did it for a long time, like I said. Around day 650, I was on a boat out of China, and it started to get really sideways on me, and I didn't think I was going to come back. The company had actually been involved in the disappearance of the guy who used to live in Hawaii. The company that ran that boat, it was the same company. So I started looking at what other ways there are to collect this data that we need to run our fisheries. And there's this thing called electronic monitoring. Again, so after that guy went missing, the government looked at this problem too. And since 2015, they put $25 million worth of investment into research. So this is the research that these guys are setting up right here. There's a bunch of open source software, and the technology is called electronic monitoring. So basically, we instead of deploying humans, we put cameras on boats. Our systems are 2 cameras on the boat, a computer which runs the system, and then we have some more kind of granular sensors that give us an idea of when the boat's fishing, so we don't have to record and watch footage of when they're just, traveling across the ocean. That cuts down on cost a whole bunch. So where does this, $25 million, that sounds like a lot. Why don't we have EM on our boats here? Honestly, I think it's because people just haven't kind of thought about it. And also, every company that's in the space right now is just taking advantage of taxpayer dollars. The system that we have over here costs us less than $1,000. If the government were to buy this, it would have been $30,000. There was just another grant they just installed last week. That was a $60,000 system. And that doesn't include review. So everybody else's systems are actually dumb systems. All they do is they record the fishing. Somebody goes through them, they watch it, they write it all down, they report it to somebody. I think where we really differ is we're going to use machine learning. We're going to use machine learning to kind of automate the entire system. And maybe we won't get 100% correct, but if you can trim down the data review to 90% of that, you're talking millions and millions of dollars in savings. In fact, if you do the projections, with electronic monitoring, you can monitor the entire fleet, 100% of the boats, for about $2 million a year less than 25% of humans. So we think it's a really exciting kind of venture. Here, we've already created a system. Hopefully they get it on in the next 30 seconds. And we're actually asking for $3,000 to buy more of these. In the next weeks, I'm going to approach some captains so we can put our systems on boats and collect that data so we can train it for machine learning. And that's really our plan. So if you have any questions, we're open to them. And if you have any collaborators, we're very open to that. So thank you.
Question on the people versus machine side. So it sounds like there are a lot of people that are out there doing the observing. Would this technology remove those jobs, or would somebody still need to be monitoring the EM data?
Right, so this is what everybody says about automation. It doesn't remove people, it just kind of augments their position. New roles will show up. So the first big role, the thing you need to understand is observers have a very, very short lifespan, job-wise, sometimes life-wise as well. But so an average observer will only stay in the job for about a year. They'll do about 90 C days, they'll decide that's not for them, and they'll leave. So the rate of attrition is insane. So our plan is actually to use those extremely knowledgeable people that have spent time at sea to do the review and to do the annotations, so we can build the machine learning library. And by the time those guys are ready to move on, or by the time those guys would have already moved on, we'll be ready to take this with a much smaller core group of people that will still do the checking of, the computer comes back with a 90% confidence rating on something, and we decide 90 is too low. So some human that's knowledgeable in our fishery will still have to check that.
Can you also share again who the paying customer is? Is it the individual fishing companies, or is it a government entity?
The government. So right now the government pays $6.8 million a year for this data, and that's only 25% of the fleet. So I think if we can come in at a competitive price we're thinking about $4.5 million a year, and that contract is up in 2023 for bid. I think we can really make a competitive play there and bring something better for our fisheries, better for our islands, cheaper to the taxpayer.
And then maybe just an offering, if you're familiar with Flywire,
yeah.
They started out at UH but now in Arkansas? Okay.
Yeah, I actually work for NOAA.
Okay.
So yeah, Flywire was, John Long is a colleague of mine, and they did that entire thing. Now they're out in the Outer Banks in North Carolina.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, localizing some kind of proof of concept, because clearly the idea warrants it, but is our local government able to partner and take it to your next level so that the feds, because federal contracting is a serious pain in the ass.
Yeah, like I said, I work for NOAA, so I understand.
Oh, goody, that's right, okay.
Yeah, I know all the rules, and I kind of know all the inside.
That's awesome.
The ways to deal with federal contracting. So in the beginning, before we have kind of that machine learning, and kind of before we're ready to go, because it doesn't work until our systems are on 100% of the boats, we're actually trying to build kind of security. We call it value added to the fishermen. So if they can add traceability to their fish, which makes their fish worth more, that's kind of how we'll get up there. It's also scalable across the entire Pacific. Every longline tuna fishery is the same. So hopefully we can get into other countries if we find some resistance here. But again, because of my network and because of how long I've been inside of NOAA, I hope I can get around that.
What has been your feedback from restaurants or other buyers from fisheries on traceability? Is it something they're willing to pay for?
So I haven't actually talked to any of the restaurants, the end users. Mostly what I talk to are the people who are in the FID technology. So FRID technology, the people who are tracking the fish. So you put a tag on a fish and that goes through the market. There is a massive amount of funding in that right now. All of my work so far has been grants and prizes. And there's just this plethora of money that's going into it because everybody sees that it's a valuable thing and you can make your fish worth more. I think Monkey Pod does their traceability stuff. And there's a small company here called Hōkū. And Ashley Watts actually is really into traceability, and we're hoping to get a meeting with her soon so we can kind of connect our technology with that.
Kenny does that too. Kenny's restaurants and that.
A quick follow-up with that is any talks with the local insurance companies that have to insure the fishery boats to ensure that they're catching what they're catching. And that, and as well as if they somehow have like a a repair that needs to be done, they're missing out on that income, they have to report that.
I don't understand the
Yes.
question.
Nice.
So insurance companies are insuring,
The
what are they
boats.
specifically insuring?
The boats or even labor too on the boats.
Right.
They're insuring the boats.
Say if
Going
something
down,
happens with the
damage on
boat, or
boats.
yeah, there's something damaged, and so they're missing out on a day of fishing. That includes, this is how much they would have made had they gone out that day.
Yeah, so Jimmy, I'll take this.
Yeah.
So we've actually, at work at NOAA, and we really should be careful about mixing those two. I've had some experience with this. We've had a lot of boats that have had accidents already. The insurance, they will request the footage. And we work with the captains and the insurance company to release that footage to make sure everything's on the up and up. And anything that is covered with our system, like we said, our system, or like I meant to say if I didn't say it, our system should only report it during the hauling activities. So if there's an accident in, say, a transit period, we wouldn't have that information. If an insurance company paid us to have that information, we would. But every minute you save is gigabytes and it costs.
Thank you, Matt.